22nd of this month. ENCA's Khayelihle Khumalo was at that briefing and joins me now. So Kaya, it seems that one of the main concerns is the issue around cheating, and particularly group cheating. What is Umalusi saying about efforts to make sure that we don't have these incidents this time around?
By all means, it's one of the main concerns. So they're talking about, for example, reconceptualizing their programs to make sure that they minimize some of these cases. So, for example, in terms of the printing of the papers, they're saying they will be printing these papers just a couple of days before the writing. We know before they will stockpile the papers way in advance. So this is one of the most critical and a very advanced intervention to try and deal decisively with this particular issue.
In fact, they're saying they will print, quote unquote, just in time. How will they manage the logistics of doing that?
Well, it's going to be a nightmare for them, but they're saying this is just one of the ways of trying to deal with this. But more concerning to Lasiza here is also another very critical issue that they've raised, that, I mean, from time to time in South Africa, you'll see protests in certain areas. So they issued a very impassioned plea. CEO Ramokete saying communities should ensure that the education of the matriculants should not be used as a bargaining tools for their demands. So they should make sure that they refrain from protesting and allow the pupils to write exams until the 28th of November, where the completion of these exams will be.
Here, so there's another aspect, of course, that came out, Kaya, and I must say I sort of initially had a bit of a debate with myself about what do I make of this, the pledge that pupils across the country are now taking against cheating. And initially I thought, what will a pledge do? I mean, you can simply recite the words and not live up to it if you have intentions of cheating. But then again, they have good reasons, does Umalusi, why they believe there should be a pledge taken. And
oddly enough, Tilasizwe, I asked CEO Ramokete whether is it a sufficient measure? Do they believe that, you know, citing few words and saying, I pledge not to cheat, is that really just a big measure of trying to avert and avoid such incidents? And he said, look, they have quite a number of programs. It's a very comprehensive structure that they have. They have a national committee that is specifically dealing with irregularities, but also within the department itself. So Umalusi is saying from their side, they are providing an oversight. So the Department of Basic Education will be the one that will investigate and get to the bottom of this particular issue. But they're saying that they've really organized quite a number of mechanisms to make sure that, for example, in provinces like Limpopo and Mpumalanga, where you've had these cases in particular, such cases are dealt with. But also they're talking about minimizing the risk factors, making sure that the entire exercise is conducted credibly and fairly as well.
So just a final one then, Kaya. I can't imagine a briefing by Umalusi where the question of the standard of the exam papers is not discussed, and the whole matric qualification. Were they asked questions on this? What did they say?
It's quite a very huge regime, Tilasizwe. That question once again came out. It's a very rigorous process, and from their side, they're saying there has been a lot of verification, standardizing the question papers. We know that also when it comes to their very constitutional mandate, they also look at the private examination, but also the government schools as well. So they've spoken about making sure that it's becoming competitive. For example, they're saying this year, for example, about new 12 subjects will be written, and also that has made the process a bit complex from their side in getting the solutions. But more interestingly, something that is seen as a victory, the sign language will be written for the very first time in South Africa. About 29 matriculants will have such an opportunity.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Very much so, but predominantly from those schools where, you know, you have such people who need such a necessity. But of course, they're talking about a rollout, ideally throughout all the schools.
All right, thank you so much. That is ENCA's Khayelihle Khumalo, who's been tracking that briefing by the Quality Assurer Umalusi.